I sit on my comfy couch in the comfort of my beloved home. Yet, as I sit here, I don't feel any satisfaction in being here, in knowing that the other fractal aspects of me, of a God's consciousness, are also sitting within the same reality field that we had all dropped down into at one point or another, in knowing that we would be so separated from the consciousness that we come from, in knowing and perceiving the reality field that we exist in as a separate field from all that we have ever known to be true and to be real. As energy never ever dies, and the energy that we sit in has always been a distorted energy of a separated frequency, ladies and gentlemen. As once upon a time, we decided to fractal into this frequency together within this layer of our quantum realm where Gaia exists within her core and upon her surface. And as we traverse this reality field together in separateness, we've come to the realization that we've always been separated, that we've always been a separate entity from our neighbors and from ourselves. And as I sit here in the essence of it all, in reflection of the reality that we come from, that we existed in, that we exist in, and that we sit in this very moment in time, I sit in a delusion field of our reality field, even as I've opened up my consciousness and my perception field out of the entanglement of my little bubble and into the entanglement of the bubble of the citizen next door, and through the layers and layers and pockets of frequencies that my consciousness has ever reached into, above and beyond the angelic realm and into the source consciousness that had fractaled us all off into this reality field that we reside in, that you reside in as a portion of me, that I reside in as a portion of you, that the physicality of it all, that represents the speck of a dust, of a fleck, of a God's consciousness, of a portion of a God's consciousness that so willingly dropped down into the physicality of it all, into the reality field that we sit in once upon a time to traverse through these lessons of separation, of a separated state. And as I sit here in my comfy couch, I come into a realization of just that. The state of separation was no longer meant to be a forever state, as it was meant to bring home the lessons at the end of this arduous road of encompassment of the separateness that we chose to explore for ourselves. The state of unity had always been a unified state of the entanglement of your energetic field, even as you sit within the entanglement, within the own little bubble of perception field that you sit in. And as you awaken to your distortion field and pull your consciousness out of the entanglement that you've been stuck in and into the consciousness of the bubble next door, of your neighbors, your statesmen, your teachers, your honorable mentions, your family members, of the reality field of the civilizations above and beyond our perspective, within the layers and layers of frequencies within our quantum verse, we will come into a realization that we're so much bigger and grander than just ourselves. That reality field itself, that God's consciousness itself, that consciousness itself is God in itself. And the ever so shifting and ever so expanding and ever so limiting and ever so perceiving and ever so retracting and restricting and expansiveness of it all will bring you home into a retraction back to the self as you expand it out to this gray area, to this blue area, to this black area of the darkness within our consciousness that you had decided to explore within the state of a separated state once upon a time. And as we shift back into the unity consciousness of it all, as we head into an ascension so great that is ultimately prepared to bring back parts and pieces of its consciousness back into the whole unified force of the fleck, of the dust particle in which we all come from, in which we all exist in. We are set as a humanity to ascend back into the reality field in which we come from. And as physicality itself lives in this speck, in this fleck of a dust particle that has been here for eons and eons of evolutionary feats, physicality itself was never meant to exist forever. As energy itself never ever dies, as energy itself is ever so shifting, ever so expanding, ever so expansive into the skies, into the quantum verse, into the realms upon layers and layers of realms of perception fields that you cannot perceive and that you'll never be able to encompass to be real or true. You and I will merge back into the essence of the oneness in which we come from, back into the unity of the disentanglement of the energetic frequency of our consciousness in which we have always been in frequency, just not in perception field. And as I sit in my very own perception field here on my comfy couch, as do you. And as you're sitting in your perception field, you cannot fathom to be able to encompass the field of another, let alone the field of your society, not let alone the field of your world, let alone the field of the world next door, let alone the field of the layer of frequency and of pockets above and beyond our pocket of extinction, of existence, of life upon death, of lifetimes upon death times, of reincarnation cycles that never ever ends. And as I sit here speaking to you about the philosophy of it all, about the meaning of it all, about the lifetimes that you've ever gone through as an energetic frequency of a dust particle within the speck of a God's consciousness that you are, you may not understand or be able to grapple with the concepts that I speak of. But within the next moment in time, your reality field will collapse in on itself as we are set to head into 1,000 years of peace at the end of our frequency field, at the beginning of the next field of extinction, of evolution, of expansion, of forever arching retraction and expansion of this dust particle of a fleck of a consciousness that you exist in. And within the conglomeration of the entirety of the whole of all of the reality fields that can ever exist to be true and to be real, once you merge back into the entirety of the energetic field of what is, you will become the all that consciousness has ever been, as you've always been the all that God's consciousness has forevermore always represented. And no matter where you sit in this moment in time, whether you chose to sit within this three-dimensional encompassment of the light, whether you choose to sit within the two-dimensional encompassment of the darkness, this concept of consciousness being a whole, of a unity, can't be escaped. As all in all of the consciousness around us that created all that you see, all that you know, all that you can fathom, all that you believe to be true, and all that you can never fathom to be real, is a part of this reality field that we can never ever escape from. The truth of the reality of our distortion field is a truth of a reality of a field of extinction into oblivion, into the rebirth, into the reborn of the concepts upon layers and layers of energetic frequencies of concepts that you've ever known to be real or true. And as you sit here looking at life within the speck, within this particle from your very own perspective, I sit here on my couch being able to mentally grasp it all. At the same time, not being able to fathom the concept of you not being able to fathom it all and grasp it all. As I sit here, being a part of the all, being a part of you, as you sit there being a part of me, being a part of all, yet you chose to sit in an energetic layer, to fractal off into this layer of the three-dimensional frequency, and not yet have you awakened to your destiny, to your distorted reality field. Not yet have you shed of all of the perceptions that you've gone through, that you've lived through, that you've perceived to be real and true within this lifetime. And as I speak in tongue, you may one day awaken to this reality field as we anchor in the 5-dimensional frequency through the ascension, and be able to come into a finalized reality field where you will be able to understand the concepts that I speak in. And that will be a very exciting day for humanity. That will be a very exciting day for consciousness in itself, to be able to retract parts and pieces of the God's consciousness that is you, that is I, that is the all in entirety of it all, back into a place of perception of wholeness once more, back into a place of perception of self, of the realization of who and what we truly are as a species, as a human